So everything that's coming up now will be my own opinion, whether that's good or bad. So we'll go through what you get in the box. We'll start with the reactor itself. Now this is the 2-litre reactor, so it's the largest one that they do. And with the 2-litre and the 1-litre chambers, you have a separate, or a separator in the middle that allows you to run 2 different medias in there, or 2 separate areas. You could put the same, I guess. And one of the really interesting things I think with this, I've seen a couple of people do, is they might actually use this for biomedia. So they'll take this divider out and they'll just fill the whole thing with biomedia. And one of the really interesting benefits with running the reactor like this rather than in a bag or loose in the sump is it takes up less real estate in your sump because this goes up. So as long as you've got space above, you know, in your sump height wise, then you can save a lot of space just by using these. So literally you just have the footprint of this dock. So here is the reactor itself. It feels very premium. The box maybe less so, but you don't really care about the box. It's almost like an Apple experience. If the box was like as premium as the product, it would feel like you know, an Apple product. Its first impressions are good. I like the way that it has locks to hold everything in place. So I think one of the problems with the G1 series is that the ends could come off and spill media everywhere. Now let's move on to the dock itself. They have another quick start guide and an instruction book. Let's lift it out. So here is the dock. So we have the mating part for the reactor chamber, have a base and a pump. And this was one of the things that I wanted to look at, which we'll have a look at in a minute, is how does this come apart? I think I've answered the question myself here. Comes out like that, and that's how you would clean your impeller. Because obviously these chambers are only as good as your cleaning, and these will clog up whatever reactor you have. So having something that's nice and easy to access is really helpful. That's it, done. And then this will, typical man thing here, I'm not actually reading any of the instructions. I'll sit in there like that. And then that's better. And then your chamber will go on. Like this. And that's how you also increase and decrease the flow through the body as well. So I've just been through the difference between the 2 carbons, and my battery died on the camera. So just to go through them again, I've already opened these now. The Red Sea carbon is flakes, as you can see in here, and you can see, oh, there you go, you can see on the side of the container as well, there's quite a bit of dust on there. And that's something you notice when you open a container of this. When you peel the cover off or open the lid and it's new, you tend to get this cloud of black dust come out. You missed me breaking the seal on this because the battery died, but I have literally just opened this. There is the tiniest amount of dust on, tiniest amount of dust on the foil, but no cloud came out, and this is pellets rather than the Red Sea, which is more of a flake or chips of carbon. Let's now take a look at the Fozzie X, and for me that will be replacing what I'm currently using, which is Reefer. This doesn't have the dust problem really like the Active Carb. One thing I did notice previously is it's quite easy to get moisture in there. This is actually doing all right, but it can clump together. You can see there's a piece there that clumps. Not really a huge problem, just an observation. And when you put Reefer into a bag or into a chamber, you have to rinse it off, and you get this kind of brown water out of it. It's good to just rinse it off a little bit. So it'd be interesting to see how the Fozzie X, I've never had Fozzie X before, so it'd be interesting to see how that compares with the Reefer. So it looks like it's going to be really similar with the kind of brown that comes out of it, but I imagine this is some kind of granular ferric oxide type media as well. How do they compare? It looks like it's bigger particles, which would be the same as with the carbon. Yeah, it is definitely. There's various different sizes in the Reefer. It seems a little bit more consistent. There's still variation, but it seems more consistent and bigger pieces with Fozzie X. So it'd be interesting to see how they perform in comparison to each other. So we're now going to look at filling the two chambers with Acticarb and Fozzie X. To get the cylinder itself apart, it's just a twist to unlock. And the first time you do it, it's really stiff. So you just be careful, but you do just twist it. There is a kind of locked position which is just over a bit more. It's still quite stiff, and then you turn it this way so the nodule is up this end, and then that will come out. So we're going to put the activated carbon in the top, so we'll get some Fozzie X. I'll turn it this way up. Lock that in. So I did notice that a couple of pieces of the media did fall past the screen. That was probably because I had to hold it at an angle to get the media in. So we'll turn it up the other way now. You can see those pieces there that just came past as I was filling it. Take that out. Then we'll put some activated carbon in the top. So here we are. I've got some RO water to flush through this. Don't tell Mrs. East Coast Reefer that I'm using the sink for it. But what I'll do is I'll lift this up, so you should see if there's any coloured water coming out at the bottom, what kind of colour it is and how bad it is. And I haven't already tried this, so we'll both see it at the same time. So we can see that there was some browny coloured water as expected, but that's already running clear now. And yeah, I would say that that's running clear quicker than it does with Reefer. So here we are with it all fitted in the sump, and I'm ready now. I don't know if I've set it to maximum flow or minimum flow, but we'll soon find out. I'm just about to plug it in. I would say that's maximum flow, so let's turn it down there. Yeah, and here we have a minimum level of flow. So I think we're at the sweet spot here of movement between the Fozzy-X at the bottom and the activated carbon at the top. One thing I have noticed is it's quite loud. You just heard the reef mat go at the same time as a comparison. So here we are. It's just over a week since I installed the NYOS TORQ with the Fozzy-X and active carb. I started off with a lower amount of Fozzy-X and I've increased that, so I've got about double what you saw me put in at the beginning. And it started now to kind of really bring things down. So the phosphates are 0.09 right now and nitrates are 12.2. One of the things I noticed when we put the NYOS TORQ in originally was that it sounded quite loud with the water hitting onto the surface water of the sump as it came down out of this tower. And I did say in that video, I think maybe as the biofilm builds up on the outside, it will flow a bit smoother. I also found that it was touching onto the flexible hose from the Red Sea reef mat, which was causing a bit more noise. So I moved it over a little bit. And after having it running for a week now, things are looking or sounding a lot better. You can still hear it if you really listen. But once you've got the cupboard doors and everything closed, you can barely detect it, and it's certainly quieter than the fans that I have in here. One side note is that the fans are now kind of not quite sat right. I do need to have a little bit of a move around of things in the sump, and I might do that before the next part of this video, which will be my 1 month in experience of using the NYOS TORQ. I've been really pleasantly surprised by the NYOS TORQ. I think it's very hard to find negatives for it. One of the things I noticed with my previous setup, and I don't know whether it's the change to Fozzy-X or the change of the chamber, but with the last chamber I had, a lot of my Reefer there would be a pile of it underneath the reactor in the sump, and I'm not seeing that at all. Now, I have noticed that Reefer seems to be more aggressive at removing phosphate than Fozzy-X. I don't quite know. I would say I've probably got more Fozzy-X in this chamber right now than I would have had in my other chamber with Reefer, and it's making slightly less difference. So today I've stripped down all of my NYOS TORQ and cleaned everything out. So here I am just putting it all back together again so you can see the parts that come apart. There is this bottom filter grate that you can take off, and when I first looked at this was stuck into the base of the unit, so I didn't think it came apart separately. So there you can see I've now put that back together again. Then I put the sponge into the lid and we're good to go. So for filling up the TORQ, if you hold it perfectly straight like this, you get far fewer particles fall through, and then you can just drop that in, I'll fall to the bottom, and then I put some activated carbon in the top. And yeah, those of you who are eagle-eyed, you can see the activated carbon tumbling past. I've actually got the whole thing in upside down here, so yeah, a bit of a fail. I didn't notice until I went to put it into the sump that yeah, the chamber's upside down. So here we are. It's the end of the 1 month period of testing, and I thought I'd give you my final thoughts on the NYOS TORQ. So on the pros side, I really like the fact that it goes up rather than out, so it saves space in the sump because of that. I also really like the twin chamber concept, where you can run 2 different medias like I did, saving more space in the sump again. And I really liked the premium feel to everything. It feels really good, and even today when I went through to clean everything and put fresh media in it, all of the locking mechanisms were still really tight and really good, so I really liked that. On the cons side, The, the base itself is still quite big. I know why they've made it big. They've done it for stability to make it harder to tip over. But the suckers on the bottom are fantastic, and I think you could comfortably make that 40% smaller and win even more space in the sump, and that would be amazing if they had a version 2 that had a smaller base like that. And then the other con is probably the sound of the water. Now, it does diminish, and I noticed after cleaning today it's made it a little bit louder again, but I'm sure in 2 or 3 days time that biofilm coating will have really sorted all that out. And the other thing I noticed, and this isn't really a con, but it's because of where I have my refugium light, there was some overspill and it would grow algae in the torque chamber. Now, it didn't stick to the side like it has done in my skimmer, but it does flow through and clog up that sponge at the top. So you'll see a little overlay now of like a little fountain coming out the top. But that was, like I say, it's not really a con, it's not really a pro, but it's got a bit of both in it, because I really liked that it didn't just clog up and stop working. It had this overflow mechanism that it could use, and maybe that even made it a bit quieter as well. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I really liked it. So the question we need to ask really is, if I was spending my own money tomorrow, would I buy a NYOS TORQ? And the answer is absolutely yes. It's been a really great reactor, and I've been really impressed with how well it's performed. I was a little on the fence about FOSSIX to start with, but that's definitely won me over as well. And the activated carbon, that had me from the beginning. That was just way better than the Red Sea activated carbon that I was using. So overall, yeah, definitely all three. I will be buying FOSSIX and activated carbon from this point on. So yeah, read into that what you might. Hopefully this review has been helpful to you. Please hit that like button if it has. Also, go out and buy yourself a NYOS TORQ. They're well worth it. And I'll see you in another video really soon.